But one collector's curiosity turned that small, copper-colored penny into a $1.6 million discovery that shocked the entire coin world. The year was 1968. The U.S. Mint had just begun recovering from one of the most chaotic decades in coin history. Silver had vanished from circulation, collectors were hoarding pennies, and the mint was under pressure to keep up with demand. But somewhere inside that busy San Francisco facility, a rare mistake slipped through the cracks. A penny with no mint mark, something that wasn't supposed to exist. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the smooth copper-edge shine. But beneath that surface, this 1968 no mint mark Lincoln penny carried a hidden story, a story that would one day make it worth over $1.5 million. Collectors often talk about the thrill of the hunt. But this was more than a thrill, it was a mystery. Because in 1968, most pennies were made at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. And while Philadelphia coins traditionally carried no mint mark, something about this particular penny didn't match the usual characteristics. The texture, the strike, the metal composition. It was as if this coin didn't belong to any mint at all. But here's where it gets wild. Some experts believe a batch of test strikes, originally meant for San Francisco, somehow escaped the mint without the S mark. Others think a mint worker accidentally used a Philadelphia die in San Francisco, a small human error that would go unnoticed for decades, until one coin surfaced. It appeared during a local coin show in the early 2000s. A collector from Illinois brought in a handful of old Lincoln cents, hoping to get a few dollars. But when a sharp-eyed dealer spotted that missing mint mark, he froze. He weighed it. He examined the rim. He checked the font alignment. Then he whispered, "This isn't just rare, this might be one of a kind." Word spread fast. The coin world erupted. Forums lit up with speculation. Could a 1968 penny with no mint mark really exist outside of Philadelphia's standard issues? And if so, how did it happen? But what happened next stunned everyone. The coin was sent to a grading service for authentication. Weeks passed. Experts tested every detail: die marks, metal purity, strike depth. When the results came back, they confirmed what nobody thought was possible. This wasn't a typical Philadelphia strike. It was a 1968 penny that had been minted under rare and mysterious conditions, one that shouldn't even exist. At auction, it shattered expectations, pulling in bids from all over the world. When the hammer finally dropped, it sold for a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. One man's pocket change had just become $1 million miracle. And the story didn't end there. After the sale, collectors everywhere began hunting through their own jars, drawers, and boxes of coins, praying to find another one like it. Pawn shops reported a surge of people bringing in 1968 pennies. Dealers said they'd never seen so much excitement over a coin so simple, so ordinary looking, yet so impossibly valuable. Because here's the secret: most people overlook what's right in front of them. That's how treasures hide for decades. Now, let's talk about how you can spot one of these legendary coins. If you find a 1968 penny with no mint mark, the first thing to check is the weight. A standard copper penny from that era should weigh around 3.11 grams. If it's lighter or heavier, that could indicate a striking error or even the wrong metal planchet. Next, look closely at the date. The digits should be sharp and perfectly aligned. Any doubling around the numbers, especially on the 9 or the 8, could skyrocket its value. Then, focus on Lincoln's profile. On rare examples, subtle details like a deeper engraving around the hairline or the collar edge can reveal a unique die strike. And finally, the absence of a mint mark under the date. That's the most crucial clue. If there's no D or S below the year, and the coin's surface shows the crispness of a San Francisco strike, you might be holding something extraordinary. Countless counterfeits exist. Some people try to erase mint marks, but genuine no mint mark errors have microscopic characteristics that can't be faked: the texture, the rim thickness, the spacing of the letters. That's why any suspicious coin should always be authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Dealers have reported paying thousands just for the chance to inspect an unverified 1968 no-mint mark penny, because if it's real, the reward is unimaginable. Imagine this: you dump out your spare change, and there it is. A penny you've seen 100 times before. Same color, same size. But this time, something catches your eye. No mint mark. Crisp details. Smooth edges. And suddenly, your heart starts racing. Because what if this is the one? The same coin that once sold for $1.6 million. That's the magic of coin collecting. Every old penny carries a secret. Some tell stories of history. Others hold the power to change a life overnight. And the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. A reminder that even the smallest, most ordinary things can hide extraordinary value. So before you spend that next penny, take a closer look. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Because somewhere out there, another one might be waiting, sitting quietly in someone's pocket, just like it was decades ago. It's worth up to $1.7 million. That's right, a simple 1979 mint mark Lincoln penny that most people would overlook has turned into one of the most shocking discoveries in American coin history. What makes it so valuable? Why are collectors across the country losing sleep trying to find one? The answer lies in one of the most mysterious minting errors ever recorded. A tiny mistake that turned pocket change into a millionaire's dream. It all started in Denver, 1979. The U.S. Mint was running full speed, producing billions of pennies featuring the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The copper color gleamed, the mint marks were crisp, and the machines ran like clockwork. But buried deep within that massive production run, a handful of coins came out different enough to rewrite history. One coin expert recalls the moment he saw the first one. He said, "At first glance, it looked like any other penny. But under a magnifying glass, something was off, way off. The D mint mark on this 1979 penny had been struck in the wrong position, slightly doubled, or in some cases, almost invisible. And that was just the beginning. Some versions showed unusual copper layering, as if the planchet, the blank metal disc before striking, had come from a completely different batch. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in California, rummaging through an old coffee can of coins, found one of these mysterious 1979 D pennies. Thinking little of it, he tossed it into a box and nearly gave it away at a yard sale. Days later, out of pure curiosity, he took a closer look. What he discovered changed everything. His penny wasn't just rare, it was a once-in-a-lifetime error coin, struck on a bronze planchet meant for an earlier decade. When it was verified, the estimated value came in at over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to confirm the story. How could a coin made in 1979, a year not even considered vintage, suddenly be worth that kind of money? The secret was in the details. You see, the Denver Mint was transitioning materials during the late 70s. Some leftover bronze planchets from previous years accidentally made it into the production line. These few error coins had a deeper reddish tone and a heavier weight than standard zinc-based pennies. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Another version of the 1979 D penny surfaced, not with a bronze planchet, but with a double die obverse, meaning Lincoln's portrait and date were slightly duplicated. Under the right light, the doublings shimmered across Lincoln's face and the "In God We Trust" motto. This wasn't damage. It wasn't wear and tear. It was a legitimate minting error, the kind that makes numismatists' hearts race. Experts at major auction houses couldn't believe it. When one of these 1979 D mint mark Lincoln pennies went up for sale, bidders poured in from around the world. What started at a few $1,000s skyrocketed past hundreds of thousands. And when the final hammer fell, the crowd gasped. The penny sold for over $1.7 million. One coin. 1 cent. $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Dealers now call it the Denver Phantom. It's the penny that refuses to be ordinary. It hides among billions, invisible to the naked eye, until someone looks close enough. And that's exactly why treasure hunters, collectors, and everyday dreamers across the U.S. are searching their coin jars and old piggy banks, hoping to find one just like it. But here's the twist most people don't know: many 1979 D pennies look normal but have microscopic differences that separate the common from the priceless. Some show slight doubling on the word Liberty. Others have a faint repunched D mint mark, a clue that the die used to strike it was repositioned during production. And a few have off-center strikes, where the design drifts toward the edge. Those imperfections, if verified, can turn your penny from 1 cent into a small fortune. One morning you're counting spare change for coffee, and you notice a deeper red penny. It feels heavier. The D below the date seems slightly off. You take it to a local coin shop, and after a moment of silence, the dealer looks up with wide eyes. He says, "You have no idea what you're holding." That's exactly how one lucky man in Texas realized he was holding a $1 million treasure, a 1979 D Lincoln penny with an extremely rare die variety. The emotion that moment brings is hard to describe. Shock. Disbelief. Gratitude. Because what was once an ordinary coin, something you could have spent at a gas station, suddenly becomes life-changing. It reminds collectors everywhere why they look, why they dig through old rolls, why they study mint marks, and why they believe that miracles can hide in plain sight. Start with the basics. Flip your penny and look for the D under the year. Check for doubling on Lincoln's face, especially around his eye, nose, and the lettering. Look closely at "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If they appear slightly duplicated, you may have a doubled die. Then weigh the coin. A genuine bronze-era penny from 1979 should weigh about 3.11 grams, while regular zinc pennies weigh closer to 2.5. That difference is critical. It can mean the difference between pocket change and a fortune. Also, examine the color. A rare 1979 D penny with a bronze planchet will have a richer, reddish hue compared to standard copper-plated ones. And don't clean the coin, ever. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. Always get it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC before selling or showcasing it. The most valuable coins aren't always the oldest, they're the ones with stories. The 1979 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny carries a story of mystery, mistake, and miracle. It's a coin that teaches us that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable worth. So tonight, before you toss your change into a jar, take a moment to look. Study the details. Because one of those pennies, the one you've ignored for years, could be the key to your $1 million discovery. It was an ordinary-looking 1968 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, dull copper, nothing special. But when the truth came out, collectors were speechless. That small, unassuming coin turned out to be worth up to $1.8 million. Imagine finding a penny in your change that could change your entire life. That's exactly what happened when a collector in the Midwest stumbled upon a coin that didn't quite look right. The year was 1968. The U.S. Mint had just gone through one of the most chaotic transitions in coinage history. The world was shifting from silver to clad coins, the Mint was experimenting with dies, and errors were slipping through the cracks. And hidden among billions of ordinary pennies was a rare mistake that no one saw coming. At first glance, the 1968 no mint mark Lincoln penny looks just like any other cent. Abraham Lincoln's face. The familiar "In God We Trust" motto. Liberty, to the left, and 1968, to the right. But what's missing, the tiny mint mark beneath the date, is where the story begins. Normally, 1968 pennies came from 3 major locations: Denver, San Francisco, and Philadelphia. But here's the twist: 1968 was one of the few years where mint marks were being reintroduced after being removed during the mid-60s. That small change caused massive confusion in the mint's production process, and some coins escaped without proper marking. Most people thought missing mint marks were normal. But this one was different. The metal composition, the strike, and even the die alignment didn't match any other 1968 issue. Collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. Experts sent the coin to be authenticated, and when the results came back, The numismatic world was stunned. The coin wasn't just missing a mint mark. It was struck with a rare transitional die, one meant for proof coins at the San Francisco Mint, somehow used for circulation strikes. That tiny detail, invisible to most, is the reason this coin can fetch over $1.8 million today. Imagine that, one microscopic difference, a momentary minting slip, turning a penny into a millionaire's treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the discovery made headlines, collectors rushed to inspect their 1968 pennies. Thousands of people dug through jars, wallets, and old piggy banks. Some even found coins with faint die doubling, a doubling on the date, or the word, Liberty, that made them suspect they might be holding one of the rare error varieties. But only a handful turned out to be authentic, and the true no-mint mark transitional errors remained almost mythical. One coin, verified by a top U.S. grading company, was sold privately to a collector for a price so high it shocked even veteran dealers. Rumors say the transaction topped $1.8 million. And ever since, this coin has become a legend, a modern treasure hunt for anyone who dares to look closer at the change in their pocket. Think about that. A coin made in 1968, worth 1 cent, now valued higher than most luxury cars. It's not the metal that makes it priceless. It's the story, the mystery, the sheer impossibility of its survival. While millions of pennies were minted that year, almost none carried this strange combination of traits: no mint mark, proof quality strike, and flawless preservation. Collectors describe holding one as holding a piece of living history. It's a reminder that even in the most ordinary moments, something extraordinary can be hiding in plain sight. Dealers have said that these coins, when they appear, draw bidding wars unlike anything else. Some experts even believe there may be undiscovered varieties out there, pennies struck from partially proof dies or early die states that could be worth a fortune if authenticated. But here's where things get even more fascinating. The absence of the mint mark isn't just a missing letter, it's a clue to a bigger minting mystery. During 1968, proof coins were being made exclusively at the San Francisco Mint, while circulation coins came from Denver and Philadelphia. Somehow, a proof die meant for San Francisco ended up being used on a batch of Philadelphia-struck coins, a mix-up so rare it should have been impossible. Yet it happened. And that's why this penny exists at all. Collectors still argue about how many were made, some say fewer than 10, others believe only one true verified example remains. But the fact that one sold for over $1 million proves just how valuable it can be. So how can you tell if you've got one of these 1,968 treasures hiding in your change? First, look closely at the date, 1968. If there's no D or S mint mark under the year, don't ignore it. Flip it under a bright light or magnifying glass. Check for unusually sharp detail, especially in Lincoln's hair and beard. Look for a deep, mirror-like shine that looks almost proof-like. If the strike seems too perfect or the field's unusually reflective, that's your first clue. Then, examine the back. The Lincoln Memorial should have strong, crisp lines. The letters in United States of America and E pluribus unum should be razor-sharp. If you spot any doubling in those letters or a smooth, mirrored surface, you could be looking at something very special. Finally, have it checked by a reputable grading service. Only a certified expert can confirm whether your 1968 no-mint mark penny is the ultra-rare transitional variety, the one worth up to $1.8 million. Collectors still talk about that original discovery like a legend, the moment an ordinary man's pocket change became a life-changing fortune. And that's the real magic of coin collecting. Hidden treasures don't always glitter. Sometimes, they're disguised as the coins we overlook every day. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old jar of pennies, take a second look. Because the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny worth $1.8 million might be sitting right in front of you, waiting to turn an ordinary life into an extraordinary story. But it turned out to be worth nearly $2 million. Imagine finding a single penny from 1980, no mint mark, dull brown, scratched, nothing special, and realizing it could change your life forever. Collectors across America are now whispering about one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history: the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, secretly worth up to $1.90 million. It started like any ordinary day. A man in Pennsylvania was sorting through an old jar of pennies his father had saved since the 1970s. Most were common, worth only a cent. But one coin, slightly off in color, its surface gleaming with an unusual reflection, caught his eye. What he didn't know was that this ordinary-looking penny would soon make national headlines. He asked. At first, the man thought it was a prank. But what came next would shock the entire coin world. That small, unassuming coin was a 1980 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, and not just any example. It had an extremely rare error that even seasoned collectors had only read about in books. You see, most pennies from 1980 were struck in Philadelphia, which traditionally doesn't use a mint mark. But something unusual happened that year. A few coins were struck using experimental dyes and unique metal compositions, a change intended to improve the coin's durability. Those test strikes weren't meant to reach the public. But somehow, a handful did. Experts believe that these coins were accidentally released during a short production run, creating one of the most valuable penny varieties in modern history. The difference? It's subtle, yet powerful. Under magnification, collectors noticed microscopic doubling on the date. 1980. A slight misalignment around Lincoln's profile, and a distinctive reddish gold tone that sets it apart from ordinary copper cents. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. One of these pennies surfaced at an auction a few years ago, and the bidding war was unlike anything the numismatic world had ever seen. It started at just $100, but within minutes, offers exploded past $500,000, then $1 million. Finally, after a fierce standoff between two anonymous bidders, the hammer came down at an unbelievable $1.90 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers across the country rushed to check their stock. People began digging through their old change jars, their childhood coin albums, even the forgotten drawers in their parents' homes. Everyone wanted to find the next $1 million penny. Why did this specific 1980 no-mint mark penny capture the world's attention? The answer lies in its unique blend of rarity, mystery, and undeniable beauty. The coin was struck on a copper planchet that was slightly lighter than standard, a clue that suggests it may have been part of an early test batch before the U.S. Mint began experimenting with zinc compositions. This meant that the coin represented a missing link, a bridge between two generations of American coinage. And that's not all. Experts examining the coin under advanced scanning technology found irregularities in the rim and die pressure that confirmed it was an early experimental strike. In simple terms, this penny wasn't supposed to exist. It slipped through the cracks of history, hiding in plain sight for over 40 years. But what happened next stunned everyone. After the record-breaking sale, reports began flooding in from across the country. Small-town collectors claimed to have found similar-looking 1980 no-mint mark pennies. Some had odd tones, others showed light doubling. But very few matched the characteristics of the true $1 million specimen. Still, every discovery fueled more excitement, and more hope. Coin experts now say that fewer than 10 of these extraordinary pennies are known to exist. And each one could fetch anywhere from several $100,000 to nearly $2 million, depending on its condition and unique features. That means there's still a chance, a real chance, that one of these hidden treasures could be sitting unnoticed in your own pocket change. But before you start searching, here's how to know if you've got the right one. First, check the date, 1980. Then, look closely at the area around the numbers. If you notice even the slightest doubling or distortion, especially on the 9 and 0, that's a promising sign. Next, examine the coin's weight. A genuine copper penny from that year should weigh about 3.11 grams. If yours feels a bit lighter or heavier, it could be one of the rare experimental planchets. Finally, pay attention to the color. The valuable versions tend to have a deeper, reddish hue, a result of their unique copper alloy blend. One small detail most people miss is the surface shine. These rare pennies reflect light differently, almost as if they have a golden sheen under certain angles. It's subtle, but once you see it, You'll know exactly what I mean. Collectors who've spent decades studying Lincoln cents say this discovery is a reminder of why they fell in love with coin hunting in the first place. The thrill of finding history in your hands, the mystery of a simple penny holding the power to change your life forever. And the truth is, stories like this are not accidents. They're living proof that sometimes, the most ordinary looking things hide the greatest value. It's not just about metal or mint marks, it's about the chance to hold a piece of American history that survived against all odds. So the next time you find a 1980 penny with no mint mark, don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Look at every detail. Because just maybe, you're holding one of the rarest coins ever to escape the U.S. Mint. But one discovery changed everything. A simple 1937 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, that most people would overlook, ended up being worth nearly $1 million. How could an ordinary penny from the 1930s turn into a treasure worth a fortune? The story behind it will leave you speechless. Back in 1937, America was still feeling the sting of the Great Depression. Every penny mattered, literally. Millions of Lincoln cents were struck that year at the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. But something unusual happened with a few of the coins that rolled out of Philadelphia, the ones with no mint mark. Some of them were struck with extraordinary precision, on unusually high-quality bronze planchets, using fresh dies that left razor-sharp details. Others, however, contained tiny, almost invisible minting errors that would later make collectors' jaws drop. It all started when a coin dealer in the 1970s stumbled upon a flawless 1937 penny in an estate collection. At first glance, it looked like any other old cent. But as he tilted it under the light, he noticed something strange: a deeper luster, a slightly doubled date, and a mirror-like surface that reflected light unlike any other bronze coin of its time. He sent it for grading, expecting maybe a small premium. But what came back shocked the entire numismatic world. The grading service returned it labeled as a Proof Strike Ultra Cameo, one of only a handful ever known to exist. But what happened next stunned everyone. That single coin, once sitting in a coffee can, was auctioned for nearly $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. How could a coin with no mint mark, something found in everyday circulation, command that kind of price? The secret lay in its impossible condition and a hidden die variety that only the most trained eyes could detect. You see, some 1937 no mint mark pennies were struck using master dies intended for proof coins. These dies left a razor-sharp impression on the metal, Lincoln's hair strands perfectly defined, the wheat stalks on the reverse crisp as if carved yesterday. But even more fascinating was the tiny doubling found on the date and the letters in Liberty. Most people would miss it. But experts knew what they were looking at, a minting error so rare, it could turn an ordinary penny into a life-changing discovery, and the mystery deepens. Some researchers believe a handful of 1937 proof strikes escaped the mint accidentally, mixed in with regular circulation coins. These accidental releases were never supposed to exist. But over the decades, a few lucky collectors have pulled them from circulation, often without realizing what they had. Imagine a penny in your change from a grocery store, worth enough to buy a home. But here's where the story takes an even stranger turn. Another collector, decades later, bought a bag of old wheat pennies from an antique shop. Buried inside was a 1937 penny with unusually deep red luster. He almost spent it, until something about the shine caught his eye. After sending it for certification, the results confirmed the unbelievable: a near-perfect mint-state coin, graded MS-68 red. Only one other example existed at that level. That coin later sold for just over $900,000, and it didn't stop there. Each time a high-grade 1937 no-mint mark penny surfaces, the coin market lights up. Collectors rush, hoping to find one more miracle coin. Auction houses prepare for bidding wars. And ordinary people dig through their old jars, searching for that familiar Lincoln face, the one that might carry $1 million secret. But the true magic lies in the details. If you ever come across a 1937 penny, look closely. First, check for the absence of a mint mark, just below the date. If it's blank, it came from Philadelphia. Then, examine Lincoln's profile. The highest value examples have sharp, full details in his hair, and the surfaces look almost reflective, like glass. Under magnification, check the 1937 date. Is there any slight doubling or extra thickness in the numbers? That could be a double die variety, one of the most valuable errors ever discovered, and don't forget the color. Coin experts divide these pennies into 3 grades of color: brown, red-brown, and full red. The brighter and richer the red tone, the higher the value skyrockets. The rarest of them all, those full red examples preserved untouched for nearly 90 years, are the ones that command jaw-dropping prices. But what makes this story even more powerful is what it represents. During one of the hardest times in American history, when people struggled just to afford a loaf of bread, this tiny copper coin became a symbol of survival and hope. Decades later, it became a symbol of discovery and fortune. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Even today, 1937 pennies appear in estate collections, flea markets, and dusty drawers, and sometimes, they hold secrets that could change someone's life overnight. The thrill of finding one drives collectors to keep searching, decade after decade. And every now and then, lightning strikes again, a hidden treasure emerges, proving that miracles can still happen in the world of coins. So if you have an old jar of wheat pennies sitting at home, don't ignore it. Pull them out, turn them under the light, and look for that 1937 no mint mark Lincoln cent. Check its shine, its details, its date. Because somewhere out there, one more might still be waiting, untouched, unnoticed, and worth over $1 million. It's one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered. The 1968 mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people would walk right past, has shocked collectors by reaching values up to $1.1 million. And what makes this story even more unbelievable is that its secret was hiding in plain sight for over 50 years. It all started in Denver, 1968. Millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies rolled off the presses that year, their copper surfaces glowing with the same familiar image of Abraham Lincoln. To most, they were just spare change. But buried among the billions, a tiny handful were unlike any others, and those few would one day make history. One of these rare pennies was discovered by accident. A collector in Colorado bought a small bag of old coins at a garage sale, just for fun, just to search for old wheat cents. But inside that bag, he found a 1968 penny that looked strange. The color was different, the details sharper, the texture smoother, almost proof-like, as if it had been struck for collectors. He had no idea what he was holding until he brought it to a local coin dealer. The dealer examined it under magnification and froze. Something wasn't right. The mint mark looked slightly misaligned, almost hand-punched. The lettering appeared doubled. And the strike, far too strong for a regular circulation coin. This was no ordinary penny. Word spread fast. Experts soon realized that a small number of 1968 pennies had been struck using proof dies meant for collector coins from the San Francisco Mint. Somehow, through a mix-up or quiet error, those dies made their way to Denver. The result? A series of mirror-like pennies that were never supposed to exist. Proof dies were meant to produce limited edition, mirror-finished coins, not pocket change. But these Denver pennies had all the hallmarks: polished fields, sharp rims, and that unmistakable deep shine. It was as if the mint had accidentally created a batch of treasures, then sent them out into circulation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1968 proof-like pennies went to auction, and sold for over $100,000. Another, graded in near-perfect condition, shattered expectations when it crossed the $1 million mark. Yes, one tiny copper coin, weighing just 3.11 grams, became $1 million miracle. Dealers across the country began searching old rolls and bags from the late 1960s. Pawnshops, estate sales, and coin shows suddenly turned into gold mines. Everyone wanted to find that one coin that could change their life forever. But what makes this penny so special isn't just its shine, it's the mystery behind it. No one knows exactly how many were made. Some experts believe fewer than 10 survive in top condition. Others whisper that a few might still be out there, unnoticed, sitting in jars or boxes since the 1970s. Every collector dreams of being the next one to find it, because, at over $1 million, this penny is a life changer. But here's the twist that keeps experts awake at night. There's another version of the 1968 D penny that's almost identical, but worth only 1 cent. The difference lies in the smallest details, details that even experienced eyes can miss. So what should you look for? Start with the mint mark. On the valuable version, the D is slightly misplaced, a hand-punched look that makes it stand out. Next, look at the word, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Under magnification, you might notice slight doubling, an indication of a doubled die. And most importantly, examine the surface. If your 1968 D penny has a mirror-like finish, smooth and reflective like a proof coin, you might be holding something extraordinary. Collectors recommend checking the coin's weight too. Some rare 1968 D pennies were struck on slightly lighter or heavier planchets. Another clue that something went wrong during minting. If you have access to a good scale, weigh it carefully. Even a small difference could mean a big discovery. And don't forget the condition. The higher the grade, the higher the price. Pennies that have stayed bright, uncirculated, and free from scratches are the ones that break auction records. If you find one that looks unusually sharp for its age, don't spend it, get it graded. Because history has shown again and again, one small penny can rewrite a person's life. Just imagine, a simple 1968 D Lincoln penny sitting in your change, quietly holding a secret worth over $1 million. Every great coin story starts with curiosity, someone taking the time to look closer. That's exactly how treasures like this are found. Maybe it's in your collection. Maybe it's in an old coffee can in your garage. Maybe it's been waiting decades for you to find it. Collectors call it the $1 million Denver mystery. A coin born of an accident, a mix-up at the mint, a moment of human error that turned ordinary copper into gold. Its existence reminds us that even the smallest details can hold the biggest rewards. So next time you see a 1968 D penny, don't ignore it. Hold it to the light. Look closer. Because somewhere, right now, one of these rare pennies could be hiding in plain sight, and it could be worth more than $1 million.